Welcome everyone to this live podcast on Twitch, where you can find the news from the research industry that how our researchers keep on researching on various topics and domains to keep our lifestyle better, of course. And this article posted on our website named postvantage.com. So if you are willing to check it out, please check it out. Otherwise, listening to this podcast will be enough for you guys, as it acts like an archive on the daily basis, providing you the information from the research industry itself. So, without wasting any further time, let's get started with the first topic of the day. Cleaning up toxic protein clumps could prevent dementia. Okay, let's see. The cleanup of cellular protein clumps could prevent the onset of some type of dementia, according to a new study from the University of Queensland. A researcher from the Queensland Brain Institute made the discovery after focusing on the relationship between the enzyme fine and the protein tau is frontotemporal dementia. The team led by Professor Frederick Manward and Dr. Raymond Martinez Marmol found that Finn, an important player in learning and memory, becoming highly active when it is immobilized within the synapses, which are the connection hubs between neurons where neuronal communication take place. Using super resolution microscopy, we can now see these enzymes individually and in real time moving around randomly in live neurons. Lead author Dr. Manson Marmol said. The team found that when these enzymes become activated, the change into an open structure like a flower that blossoms and slow down their movement, grouping together to form clustered or clumps of proteins before refolding and dispersing to start their cycle again. When they need to complete an action, the fin enzymes slow down and con- congregate at the synapses to initiate their function, Dr. Martin Marmol said. Normally, this process occurs naturally thousands of times at the synapses between neurons and is necessary to maintain neuronal communication, which is the basis of learning and memory. Professor Frederick Manuel explained that for learning and memory to occur, Finn needs to form these dynamic clusters. But if you alter the balance in any way, you have too little or too much clustering, you develop pathological issues, he said. The researcher follows the team earlier work where they discovered how impacted a critical mechanism in memory function. The team showed using super resolution microscopy that when neurons are exposed to a mutant version of tau present in frontotemporal dementia, the clustering of fin enzyme is accentuated with the potential to trigger a deliberating chain reaction. The association of fin and tau is necessary for the progression of different forms of dementia, including Alzheimer's disease and frontotemporal dementia, has been demonstrated by many laboratories around the world. However, the precise molecular mechanism behind this pathological interaction were not known. Importantly, this mutant tau has a higher propensity to form what is known as biomolecular condensates, which are small gel like droplets within the cell. Some proteins, under specific conditions, tend to spontaneously aggregate, forming droplets that resemble oil spills in an aqueous solution. Tau is one of these proteins. Formed at the neural synapses, these tau droplets create the perfect trap for fin molecules, keeping them highly immobile and accentuating their clustering activation for longer. It's like a spider web, Dr. Manson Marmol said. Normally, fin stops and moves in frontotemporal dementia. Fin stops mode as it becomes stuck in this gel-like structure. The droplets of tau therefore attract additional fin proteins at the snaps. Professor Manuel said tau biomolecular condensate could hold the key to reverting this toxic chain reaction. We believe they are the perfect target for future therapy to re-establish normal fin clustering dynamics. Professor Ma- Maynard said, theoretically attacking the formation of toxic tau biomolecular condensates should prevent the process of dementia from happening. The study has been published in Molecular Psychiatry. Sorry, guys. So I mean, of course, it's being used in the neural part of your brain and having more useful to cleaning up the protein clumps which prevent dementia disease. So I mean, great for many patients out there, and of course for the doctors. So great, man. Moving on to our next topic. A stimulator powered a brain stimulator powered by breath instead of batteries. Okay, let's see. Implantable deep brain stimulators can help many people with neurological and psychiatric disease when traditional treatment fails. Okay, but surgery every time the batteries need to be changed in a major drawback. Now, Yukon researcher report in Cell Report Physical Science a new way to charge the device using a person's own breathing movements. Deep brain simulators are becoming more common with about 1500,000 new devices implanted each year. They are normally placed under the skin in the chest area and their electrodes implanted with the brain. The electrodes zap the brain with electrical pulses multiple times per second to regulate the brain abnormal electrical activity. Deep brain stimulator can help people with Parkinson's disease and other movement disorders to regain control over their muscle motions. Research has also shown the technique can significantly reduce the symptoms of psychiatric conditions such as treatment resistance, depression, and obsessive compulsive disorder. Just like a pacemaker, deep brain simulators are battery powered. While most pacemaker battery last from 7 to 10 years, deep brain simulator battery typically require changing every 2 to 3 hours because of their high energy consumption, and each battery changes require surgery. Okay. Yukon chemist Ersa Elzlandi Elsan Adidi Islam Mosa James Rusling and their collaborators have developed a deep brain simulator that never needs its battery changed. Okay. Instead of battery, the new device converts the motion of the user chest as they breathe into electricity as the person breathes in and out. The chest wall presses a very on a very small and thin electric generator called a triboelectric nanogenerator. The nanogenerator converts that movement into static electricity. The concept is akin to rubbing a balloon on your shirt and then putting it on a wall to stick there. The wall and the balloon have different static electric charges, and stick to each other. Charges from the more negative material stick to the more positive one, and in the deep brain simulated triboelectric channel generator, this creates a current that charges a capacitor. The supercapacitor discharges the electricity to power the medical device and stimulate the brain. We created a triboelectric nanogenerator using no nanomaterials which produce significant energy output when they come in contact with each other. Enough energy to run the deep brain simulator, says Elsan Adidi. We want to make this fit in with the rest of the available technology in the usual way. In principle, if someone already has a brain stimulator, we could just replace the battery with this generator without having to retrofit them with a wholly new device, says Yukon chemist Jim Rustling. The team tested the device by bending their triboelectric nanogenerator is the chest of a simulator pig containing a pig lung connected to a pump. When the pig lungs is inflated and deflated during the inhalation and exhalation, it pushes against the nanogenerator, causing two layers inside the nanogenerator to rub and produce electricity. The electricity travels through a thin wire to charge the supercapacitor, which powers the deep brain simulator electronic placed outside the rib cage. The brain simulator uses the electronic stored in the capacitor to create pulse 60 times a second, just as it would in a commercial device. This is the first system that combines all the pieces: efficient energy harvesting, energy storage, and the control brain simulator. We demonstrated that our self sustainable deep brain simulator can intermittently stimulate the brain tissue by alternating periods of stimulation and periods of no stimulation, which is an effective deep learning simulation approach for treating psychiatric conditions, says Mosa, who is also the chief technology officer of Voltzone, a company in Yukon Technology Incubator program that is commercializing the system. The next step will be to try the device in a large animal. I mean, uh, of course, we are moving in a world where everyone tries to put a chip on our brain or using and collect the information on a chip itself instead of relying on the brain itself. I mean, of course, it's the new technology, it's the new phase in our whole human evolution, but still, of course, how can I? Because I'm totally against in all of these projects. I don't know why. I'm most rely on the personally. I most rely on the person ability, not just on the artificial intelligence. But it still requires, of course, in many various ways to get into the another dimension or another life of different world. Of course, like we are talking about the astronomers and the universe, it's being very difficult to have just rely on the brain itself. But I personally I feel it's been more rely on the human brain, not just on the chip based. But still, how can I stop those things? So great, man, great finding, great initiative to have a battery for more than uh, for It's used like an electricity or generate its electricity on its own and cannot be replaced by anyone. And of course, it's being used for many people who are mentally unstable and having psychological problem. So great, man. Thank you for this research and paperwork. Moving on towards next topic. Which COVID vaccine you get could affect your myocarditis risk. Okay, let's see. Incidence of myocarditis, pericarditis, or myopericarditis is 2 to threshold higher after second dose of the Moderna Spikevax COVID-19 vaccine when compared to the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. However, overall cases of heart inflammation with either vaccine are very rare. According to a study in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, the study showed males younger than 40 years old who received the Moderna vaccine were shown to have the highest rates of myocarditis, which according to the authors may have implication for choosing specific vaccines for certain populations. Two mRNA COVID-19 vaccine have been approved for use: Pfizer BioNTech BNT162b2 and Moderna Spikevax mRNA 1273 as of March 2022. More than 52 million doses of Pfizer and 22 million doses of Moderna have been administered in Canada, where this study was conducted. Clinical trials have demonstrated the vaccine are safe, and monitoring of the vaccinated people has shown side effects are mild and go away on their own. However, some rare but serious side effects have been observed after both vaccines, mainly myocarditis, inflammation of the heart. While there have been many studies on either vaccines, a few studies have been conducted to directly compare the safety of the two mRNA vaccines. Researchers in this study sought to compare the risk of myocarditis, pericarditis, and myopericarditis between the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines. People in the study were 18 years old or older and had received two primary doses of either Pfizer and Moderna vaccine in British Columbia, Canada, with the second dose between Jan 1st, 2021 and September 9, 2021. Individually whose first or second shots were administered outside of British Columbia or had a history of myocarditis or pericarditis within 1 year prior to their second dose were excluded. In all, more than 2.2 million second Pfizer doses and more than 700,000 Moderna doses were given. Within 21 days of the second dose, there was a total of 52 myocarditis cases, 21 Pfizer and 31 Moderna, and 41 pericarditis cases, 21 Pfizer and 20 Moderna. Researchers also looked at rates per million doses, and the rate was 35.6 million 6 cases per million for Moderna and 12.6 per million for Pfizer, and almost threefold increase after Moderna shots versus Pfizer. Comparatively, rates of myocarditis in the general population in 2018 were 2.1 per million in people under age 40 and 2.2 per million in people over age 40. Rates of myocarditis and pericarditis were higher with the Moderna vaccine, both males and females between ages 18 and 39, with the highest per million rates in males ages 18 to 29 after a second dose of Moderna. According to the authors, the findings support recommending certain population receive certain vaccines to maximize benefit and minimize adverse events. Few population based analyses have been conducted to directly compare the safety of the two mRNA COVID 19 vaccine which differed in important ways that could impact safely, said Naveed Januja, MBBS doctor, PH, lead author of the study, and an epidemiologist and the executive director of Data and Analytics Service at the British Columbia Center for Disease Control. Our findings have implications for strategizing the rollout of mRNA vaccines, which should also consider the self-limiting and mild nature of most myocarditis events. Benefits provided by the vaccination, higher effectiveness of the Moderna vaccine against infection and hospitalization found in prior studies, and the apparent higher risk of myocarditis following COVID 19 infection than with mRNA vaccination. Limitation of the study include that it was observational, which limits the ability to determine causality between vaccination and myocarditis or pericarditis. However, temporality was ensured in the study designed to limit the time studied between vaccine dose and myocarditis pericarditis diagnosis. Also, the study relied on hospital and emergency department visit data and may have missed some less severe cases. In a related editorial comment, Guy Whitbook, MD, MPH, a cardiologist at Rabin Medical Center in Petah Tikva, Israel, wrote that the study is reassuring for vaccine safety since it provides further data that myocarditis is a very rare adverse event after both vaccines, and it is an important step toward a personal approach to administering COVID 19 vaccines. The study should help put the rest vaccine hesitancy due to concerns over cardiac adverse events, Whitbook said. This is one of the only a few direct comparisons of the two widely adopted mRNA vaccines, and its results have practical policy implications for a substantial segment of the population suffering from cardiovascular disease. These data give a strong argument to preferentially use the BNT 162 P Pfizer vaccine over mRNA 1273 Moderna. So it's the study which is provided by our researchers on this vaccination system, which affects the cases of myocarditis and pericarditis. So, I mean, it's been a major concern in many the people, of course, who are taken those doses between those days. So, okay, it's important to raise this issue and highlight this important information. So, yep, great man. Moving on to our next topic. Improving rare earth free magnets through microstructured engineering. Researchers from the Department of Energy Critical Material Institute (CMI) and MS National Laboratory have improved the properties of a rare earth-free permanent magnet material and demonstrated the process can be upscaled for manufacturing. The researchers developed a new method of manufacturing manganese bismuth (MnBI) magnets based on microstructured engineering. This process is a step towards making compact, energy efficient motors without the use of rare earth. High power permanent magnets are increasingly important for a variety of renewable energy technologies, including wind turbines and electric cars. According to Wang Tang, CMI researcher and MS Lab scientist, these magnets are currently constructed from rare earth elements such as neodymium and dysprosium. However, he explained that these elements are low stock and high demand, leading to an unreliable supply chain and high prices. One solution to this problem is for scientists to find alternative materials such as the MNBI used in this research. Permanent magnet used for motor required high energy density or a high level of magnetism and coercivity. Coercivity is a magnet ability to maintain its current level of magnetism despite exposure to high heat and outside influences that could demagnetize it. If we use high power density magnet, we can reduce the motor size and make a more compact motor. Say Tang, right now it is very important that we can make some devices smaller and more compact, more energy efficient. The challenge with the MNBI is that traditional manufacturing method required high heat to transform the individual material into a large magnet. The necessary heat reduces the energy density of the magnet. To address this problem, the team developed an alternative process. Tang said that they started with a very fine powder for each of the material, which increases the starting magnetic energy level. Next, they used a warm heating method rather than a high temperature method for forming the magnet. Finally, the key to their new process was to add a new non-magnetic component that would keep the grain particles from touching each other. This additional element, called a grain boundary phase, provides more structure to the magnet and keeps the magnetism running through individual particles grains from affecting one another. It is like the structural material, Tang said. It's like if we are concrete to build a wall, we judge the concrete itself, it's weak, but if we put a steel ribber inside first, then pour the concrete, it's going to several dozen times stronger. The effect of the warm temperature on the magnetic properties of MnBi is unique. The researcher expected the coercivity and magnetism to decrease with increasing temperature, which is true for most magnetic materials. However, for MnBi, the warm temperature increased the coercivity and decreased the magnetization. This increased coercivity helps to keep the magnet more stable at elevated temperatures than other known magnets. The team also focused on making larger magnets compared to the typically small magnets developed in labs. Upsizing the magnet helped to demonstrate to the manufacturing companies that they can build large magnets on a commercial scale. If we cannot make the larger one, we cannot use it for any application, Tang said. We need a big magnet and we need to make it into whatever the shape needed. Also, we need to be able to mass produce at a low cost. This is important for future application, of course, ma'am. The team is currently working with a powered Met Incorporation using the pending techniques to pursue mass production of the MnBi magnets for use in novel electric motors. That project is funded by DOE, Department of Engineering, Small Business Innovation Research Program. The project has already entered phase 2, which means that the project has been proven feasible and additional funding has been awarded to further develop and demonstrate the technology. This research is further discussed in the paper Engineering Microstructure to Improve Coercivity of Bulk MnBi Magnet, written by Wang Tang, Gyong Ongyong, Ziube Liu, Xing Wang, Byung-Soo Siu, and Jun Zhu, and published in the Journal of Magnetism and Magnetic Materials. Okay, okay. Moving on to our next topic. Stem cells used to generate mini brains of the last male S- Sumatran rhino. Okay. Researchers generate induced pluripotent stem cell (iPSC) and cerebral organoids from the last male Malaysian Sumatran rhino, according to a study published in the journal iScience on October 20th. As noted by the authors, the organoids could contribute to knowledge about the evolutionary progression of brain development in mammals and may help to unravel the ancient history of the Rhinoceros family. To best of our knowledge, cerebral organoids have only been obtained from mouse and human and non-human primate pluripotent stem cells so far. Okay, says senior study author Sebastian Dike of the Max Delbrück Center of Molecular Medicine and the Helmholtz Association MDC. We were excited to observe the formation. We were excited to observe the formation of mini brains from Sumatran rhino IPSC in a seemingly comparable fashion as described for human organoids. The 6 mass extinction is progressing with unprecedented speed. The, fig- the 5 extant rhinoceros species are particularly affected due to poaching as well as habitat destruction and fragmentation. The Sumatran rhino, also known as the hairy or Asian two-horned rhino, is the smallest and most ancient of the extant rhinoceros species. It plays a key role in shaping forests and spreading the seeds of at least 79 different plant species. Fewer than 80 Sumatran rhinos are left on Earth once they inhabited a continuous vast area in East and Southeast Asia, but now only small fragmented populations remain scattered across Sumatra and Indonesia, Borneo. Habitat loss and limited breeding possibility are the greatest threats for the species and are leading to a continuous population decline. To stop the erosion of genetic density, the reintroduction of genetic material is indispensable because the propagation rate of captive breeding is too low. Innovative technologies need to be developed. IPSC are are a powerful tool to fight extinction. They give rise to each cell within the body, including gametes, and provide a unique approach to preserve genetic material across time. Beyond application in innovative conservation technology, conserv- conservation strategies, IPSC have endangered species, enable research on species specific developmental process. In the new study, Dike and his collaborator generated iPSC from the large male Malaysian Sumatran rhino KTM who died in 2019 and characterized then comparison, compar, compar, comprehensively. The IPSC give rise to cell of the three germ layers. We, co- uh, we conserved we conserved his genetic information and created an opportunity to produce viable s- spermatozoa ta- z- tozoa spermatozoa for breeding purpose in the future. Says first out of the Veda Zipmits of MDMC. MDC, sorry. As the quality of semen collected from Sumatran rhinos is poorly directly after retrieval and even worse after preservation and thawing in vitro generated spermatozoa offered a great alternative for assisted breeding of Sumatran rhinos in general. In addition, the cerebral organoids highlighted the ability of iPSC to generate complex 3D structure and represent a promising application for studying the evolutionary progression of the brain development across species. The organoid developed in a self-organized manner and expressed all neural makers tested. Taken together, this work represents the first step toward thwarting extinction of the Sumatran rhino using stem cell associated techniques. We hope the general audience gain insight into the great potential of iPSC and the variety of applications they can be used for diagesis. We also aim to raise awareness of the ongoing sixth mass extinction event, which is caused by human activities and the great efforts that need to be taken to rescue a single species. Moving on to our next topic, fertilizer limit pollination by changing how bumblebees sense flowers. Okay. Pollinators are less likely to land on flowers sprayed with fertilizer or pesticides as they can detect electric field change around the flower. Research at the University of Bristol have found the study published in PNAS Nexus today shows the chemical sprays oft alter the electric field around flowers for up to 25 minutes after exposure. This impact lasts substantially longer than natural fluctuations such as those caused by wind and causes a reduction in feeding effort in nature. Dr. Elliot Hunting of Bristol School of Biological Science and his team noted that fertilizer did not affect vision and smell and set out to mimic the electrical changes caused by fertilizer and pesticide in the field by electrically manipulating flowers. This showed that bumblebees were able to detect and discriminate against the small and dynamic electric field alterations that are caused by the chemicals. Dr. Ellard Hunting said, "We know that chemicals are toxic, but we know little about how they affect the immediate interaction between plants and pollinators. Flowers have a range of cues that attract bees to promote feeding and pollination. For instance, bees use cues like flower ordered and colored, but they also use electric field to identify plants. A big issue is those agrochemical application can distort floral cues and modify behavior in pollinators like bees. Furthermore, various other airborne particles such as nanoparticle exhaust gases, nanoplastic, and viral uh, particles may have similar impacts affecting a wide uh, array of organisms that use the electric fields that are virtually everywhere in the environment. Co-author Bristol Sam England explained what makes this study important is that it's the first known example of anthropogenic noise interfering with a terrestrial animal electrical sense. It's much like a motorboat noise that hinders the ability of fish to detect their predators, or the artificial light at night, and that confuses moths. The fertilizer are a source of noise at bees trying to detect floral electrical cues. This widens our understanding of the multifaceted ways in which human activity is negatively impacting the natural world, which can seem quite depressing, but it will hopefully allow us to introduce or invent solutions to prevent the adverse effects that these chemicals may be having on bees. Dr. Willard Hunting added, the fact that fertilizer affect pollinator behavior by interfering with the way an organism perceives its physical environment offers a new perspective on how the human made chemicals disturbed a natural environment. Moving on towards next topic. Tropical cyclones act as massive heat pumps that fuel extreme heat. Okay, okay, let's see. 3 days after Hurricane Fiona struck Puerto Rico in mid September, the National Weather Service issued an extreme heat advisory warning that heat index, which incorporates humidity to calculate perceived temperature, could reach up to 109 degrees above average temperature. Almost always follow tropical cyclones, which by definition include tropical storms and hurricanes, and may soar to nearly 10 degrees Fahrenheit higher than average, according to a new University of Arizona led study published in Geophysical Research Letters. The study authors stressed that the results are likely conservative estimates of just how high temperature can climb following a cyclone. Tropical cyclones often cause damage from strong winds, storm surges, intense rain, and flooding, but extreme heat is an additional hazard. The researcher found above average temperature can occur days later and even in nearby areas that were not directly impacted by the storm. Multiple extreme events happening within a very short window of time can complicate disaster recovery, said lead study author Zachary Giordo, an assistant research professor in the University School of Natural Resources and Environment and the Arizona Institute of Resilience Solution for Environment and Societies, or AIRS. To medical provider, heat is a concern. Our results suggest that tropical cyclone preparedness should also include public information about high risk. The research team analyzed 53 tropical cyclones in the eastern Caribbean between 1991 and 2020 and 2005 interactions between the cyclones and the 14 Caribbean cities. They found that the city's heat index values were always warmer than average after the storm. Everyone focus is on the destructive power of tropical storms and hurricanes. The storm surge, winds, flooding, and that's obviously quite substantial. But our focus is on the combined hazard of storm and subsequent heat, Giordo said. Hurricanes are massive heat pumps redistributing heat for a large spatial distance around the center of the storm, and they leave massive destruction in their wake that can knock out the energy grid. That combination is often dangerous because it slows recovery and poses risk to human health. While the paper doesn't explore how climate change may be impacting the phenomenon, the author expect that high heat index values following tropical cyclones will increase in the future. It's very easy to understand the climate change impacts of these. Guide said our future will likely have hurricanes, dropping more intense rain, and have more people in harm's way. Then, if you drape on top of the of that hotter environment, you will therefore expect a greater overall impact. Guido leads AIR's international programs and works closely with the University of New Arizona Initiative of Resilience and Development, which both support U Arizona research in regions more sensitive to social and environmental change and research on topics and that advance sustainable development. The cyclone. Hello, hello. Sorry, guys. Sorry for this disturbance. The cyclone study is part of a larger effort to build climate resilience in Puerto Rico. The researcher held workshops with public health researchers and meteorological service professionals in the Caribbean who pointed to the need to better understand the impact of heat following tropical storms and hurricanes. We want to call attention to this as a new hazard. Guido said we worked with the National Weather Service in Puerto Rico, and a part of the work not discussed in the paper was to build awareness about heat impacts. Puerto Rico has a heat awareness week from May 11 through 15, and we are working to help advance public education and establish a heat awareness day. The researcher team also included Pablo Mendez Lazaro from the University of Puerto Rico, Simon Mason from Columbia University International Research Institute for Climate and Society, and Teddy Allen from the Caribbean Institute of Meteorology and Hydrology. Moving on to our next topic. First sentence ever written in Kenite language discovered a plea to eradicate bird lice. The alphabet was invented around 1800 BC and was used by Canaanites and later by most other languages in the world. Until recently, no meaningfully Canaanite inscription had been discovered in the land of Israel, save only two or three words here and there. Now, an amazing discovery uh, presents an entire sentence in Canaanite dating to about 1700 BC. It is engraved on a small ivory comb and includes a spell against lice. The comb was unearthed at Tel Lashich in Israel by a team from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem (HU) and the Southern Adventist University in the United States under the direction of Professor Joseph Granfinkel, Michael Hassel, and Martin Klin Bale. The inscription was deciphered by Semitic epigraphist Dr. Daniel Weinstaub at Ben Gurion University (BGU). The ivory was tested by HU Professor Rivka Rabinovich and BGU Professor Gordon and was found to originate from an elephant tusk. Their findings were published in the Jerusalem Journal of Archaeology. The letter of the inscription were engraved in a very shallow manner. It was excavated in 2017, but the letter were noticed only in a subsequent post processing in 2022 by Dr. Madeleine Mum Clogley. It was cleaned and preserved by Medium Levy. The ivory comb is small, measuring roughly 3.5 by 2.5 centimeter. The comb has teeth on both sides, although their bases are still visible. The comb teeth themselves are broken in antiquity. The central part of the comb is somewhat eroded, possibly by the pressure of the fingers holding the comb during hair care or removal of lice from the head or beard. The side of the comb with six thick teeth was used to entangle knots in the hair, while the other side with 14 fine teeth was used to remove lice and their eggs, much like the current day two sided lice comb sold in stores. There are 70 canines lettered on the comb. They are archaic in form. From the first stage of the invention of the alphabet script, they form 7 words in canine reading. May this tusk root out the lice of the hair and the beard. This is the first sentence ever found in a Canaanite language in Israel. There are Canaanites in Garet in Syria, but they write in a different script, but are not the alphabet that is used till today. The Canaanite sites are mentioned in Egyptian documents, the Amarna letters that were written in the Akkadian and the Hebrew Bible. The comb inscription is direct evidence for the use of the alphabet in daily activities some 3700 years ago. This is a landmark in the history of the human ability to write, said Garfinkel. Ancient combs were made from wood, bone, or ivory. Ivory was a very expensive material and likely an imported luxury object, as there were no elephants in Canaan during that time period. The comb likely came from nearby Egypt, factor indicating that even people of high social status suffered from lice. The research team analyzed the comb itself from the presence of lice under a microscope, and photographs were taken of both sides. Remains of head lice 0.5 to 0.6 millimeter in size were found on the second tooth. The climate condition of last sheds lack hish right. However, did not allow preservation of the whole head lice, but only those of the outer ch- chitin membrane of the nymph stage head louse. Despite its small size, the inscription of the comb from Lash has very special features, some of which are unique and fill in gaps and lacunas in our knowledge of many aspects of the culture of Canaan in the Bronze Age. For the first time, we have an entire verbal sentence written in the dialect spoken by the Canaanite inhabitants by Lashites, enabling us to compare this language in all its aspects with the other sources for it. Second, the inscription on the comb sheds light on some hitherto poorly attested aspects of the everyday life of the time hair cared and dealing with lies. Third, this is the first discovery in the region of an inscription referring to the purpose of the object on which it was written, as opposed to dedicatory or ownership inscription on objects. Further, the engraver skill in successfully executing such tiny letters 1 to 3 nanometer millimeter wide is a fact that from now on should be taken into account in any attempt to summarize and draw a conclusion on literacy in canon in the Bronze Age. Lachish was a major Canaanite city-state in the second millennium BCE and the second most important city in the biblical biblical kingdom of Judah. To date, 10 Canaanite inscriptions have been found in Lachish, more than at any other site in Israel. The city was the major center for the use and preservation of the alphabet during some 600 years, from 1800 to 150 BC. The site of Tel Lachish is under the protection of the Israel Nature and Parks Authority. I mean, of course, man. Okay, moving on towards next topic. Study assesses the quality of AI literally translations by comparing them with human translations. Recent, recent advancements in the field of machine learning (ML) have greatly improved the quality of automatic translation tool. At present, these tools are primarily used to translate basic sentence as well as short text or unofficial documents. Literal, uh, literally text such as novel or short stories are still fully translated by expert human translators who are experienced in grasping abstract and complex meanings and translating them in another language. While a few studies have investigated the potential of computational model for translating literally text, findings in this area are still limited. Researchers at UMass Amherst have recently carried out a study exploring the quality of literary text translation produced by machine by comparing them with same text translation created by humans. The findings pre-published on Arxiv highlight some of the shortcomings of existing computational models to translate foreign text into English. Machine translation MT holds potential to complement the work of human translator by improving both her training procedure and their overall efficiency. Catherine Thai and her colleagues wrote in their paper, literary translation is less constrained than more traditional MT settings, since the translator must balance meaning equivalence, readability, and critical interpretability in the target language. This property, along with the complex disclosure level context present in literally text, also makes literally empty more challenging to computationally model and evaluate. The key objective of the recent work by Thai and her colleagues was better to understand the way in which state of the art MT tools still fail in the translation of literary text, where, compared to human translation, their hope was that this would help to identify specific area that developers should focus on to improve this model performance. We collect a dataset, part 3 of non-English language novels in the public domain, each aligned at the paragraph level to both human and automatic English translation, Thai and her colleagues explained in their paper. Part 3, the new dataset compiled by the researcher for the scope of their study, contains 121,000 paragraphs extracted from 118 novels originally written in different languages other than English. For each of these paragraphs, the dataset includes several different human translations as well as translation produced by Google Translate. The researcher compared the quality of human translation of these literally paragraphs with the ones produced by Google Translate using common metrics of evaluating empty tools. Concurrently, they ask expert human translator which translations they preferred, while also prompting them to identify issue with their least preferred translation. Using part 3, we discovered that experts literally translate a preferred reference human translation over machine translated paragraph at a rate of 84%, while state of the art automatic empty metrics do not correlate with those preference. Thai and her colleagues wrote in their paper. The experts note that empty outputs contain not only mistranslations but also discordant, disrupting errors and st- stylistic inconsistencies. Essentially, the findings gathered by Thai and her colleagues suggest that metrics to evaluate empty, example blue, bloat, and blonde, might not be particularly effective as human translators did not agree with their prediction. Notably, the feedback they gathered from the human translator also allowed the researcher to identify specific issues with translation created by Google Translate. Using the human expert feedback as guideline, the team ultimately created an automatic post editing model based on GPT-3, a deep learning approach introduced by a research group at OpenAI. They found that expert human translator preferred the literally translation produced by this model at a rate of 69%. In the future, the finding of this study could inform new study exploring the use of empty tools to translate literally text. In addition, the Part 3 dataset compiled by Thai and her colleagues, which is now publicly available on GitHub, could be used by other teams to train or access their language models. Overall, our work uncovers a new challenge to progress in literally empty, and we hope that the public release of Part 3 will encourage researchers to tackle them. The researcher concluded in their paper. Of course, man. Moving on to our next topic, most detailed map of brain memory hub finds connectivity puzzle. The most detailed map ever made of the communication link between the hippocampus, the brain memory control center, and the rest of the brain has been created by Australian scientists, and it may change how we think about human memory. Okay, we were surprised to find fewer connection between the hippocampus and the frontal cortical areas, and more connection with early visual processing areas than we expected to see, said Dr. Marshall Dalton, a research fellow in the School of Psychology at the University of Sydney. Although this makes sense considering the hippocampus plays an important role not only in memory but also imagination and our ability to construct mental images in our mind's eye. The hippocampus is a complex structure that resembles a seahorse and is tucked deep within the brain. As a vital component of the brain, it is important for memory formation, plays a key role in the transfer of memories from short-term to long-term storage, but it also plays a part in navigation, imagining fictitious or future experience, creating mental imagery of scenes in the mind's eye, and even in visual perception and decision making. To generate their map, the team led by Dr. Dalton, including Dr. Archive D. Souza, Dr. Zingley Elvi, and Professor Fernando Clemente from the University of Sydney Brain and Mind Center, relied on MRI scans from a neuroimaging database created for the Human Connectome Project HCP, a research consortium led by US National Institute of Health. The process of the existing HCP data using tailored technique that they developed. This allowed them to follow the connection from all corners of the brain to the termination points in the hippocampus, something that had never been accomplished before in the human brain. most detailed map to date. What we have done is take a much more detailed look at the white matter pathways, which are essentially the highways of communication between different areas of the brain, said Dr. Dalton, and we developed a new approach that allowed us to map how the hippocampus connects with the cortical mantle, the outer layer of the brain, but in a very detailed way. What we have created is a highly detailed map of white matter pathway connecting the hippocampus with the rest of the brain. It's essentially a roadmap of brain regions that directly connect with the hippocampus and support its important role in memory formation. Technical limitation inert to previous MRI investigations of the human hippocampus meant it was only possible to visualize its connections in a very broad terms. But we have now developed a tailored method that allows us to confirm where within the hippocampus different cortical areas are connecting, and that hasn't been done before in a living human brain, said Dr. Dalton. Unexpected results. The team was delighted the result largely aligned with data from previous studies overseas over the past few decades, which had relied on post-mortem studies for primate brains. However, the University of Sydney team found that the number of connections between the hippocampus and the same brain areas was either much lower in the case of frontal cortical areas or higher in the case of visual processing areas than expected. This could indicate that although some pathways were conserved as humans evolved, human brains may also have developed unique patterns of connectivity different from other primates. Further research is needed to tease this apart in more detail. These differences in connectivity may just be a limitation of the MRI technique, or it could be real. They may, for example, help explain why some of the primate cousins, especially chimpanzees, are better at some memory tasks than humans, especially those relying on short term memory. Chimpanzees have bested humans at cognitive tasks involving a form of mathematics known as game theory, which relies on short term memory, pattern recognition, and rapid visual assessment. Although we have achieved this high resolution mapping of the human hippocampus, the track tracking method conducted on non human primates, which can see down to the cellular level, is able to see more connection than use can be discerned with an MRI, mused Dr. Dalton. Or it could be that the human hippocampus really does have a smaller number of connections with frontal areas than we expect, and greater connectivity with visual areas of the brain as the neocortex expanded. Perhaps humans evolved different patterns of connectivity to facilitate human specific memory and visualization function, which in turn may underpin human creativity. It's a bit of a puzzle, we just don't know, but we love puzzles and will keep investigating. Of course, man. Okay, it's going to be the last topic of this podcast, so. And of course, it's a news, so. I mean, it's. I guess many of you already know it, but still, I will provide it to you. Hackers leak Australian health records on dark web. Okay, let's see. Hackers have followed through on a thread to leak sensitive medical records stolen from a major Australian health company that counts the country prime minister among nearly 10 million customers. Medibank told investors that a sample selection of a customer data was posted on a dark web forum on Wednesday after it refused to pay a ransom demand. The data included names, birth dates, passport numbers, and information on medical claims for hundreds of customers who were separated into naughty or and nice lists. Some of the naughty lists had numeric codes that appeared to link them to drug addiction, alcohol abuse, and HIV infections. For example, one record carried an entry that read P dialog F122. F122 correspond with the cannabis dependence under the International Classification of Diseases published by the World Health Organization. Medibank in Australian largest private health insurer, and the hack is likely to include some of the country's most influential and wealthy individuals. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said he himself was a Medibank customer and the attack was a wake-up call for corporate Australia. Okay, okay. Potential Russian link. Okay, okay. The perpetrator of the hack has not yet been publicly identified, but the Australian Federal Policy Justin Gove said it was the work of a criminal or criminal groups that could be operating outside the country. Sanjay Jha, chief scientist at the University of New South Wales Institute for Cybersecurity, said it was difficult to attribute any attack to a single group. Of course, man. However, he told AFP it carried some of the hallmarks associated with a Russian hacker group called Rivil R Evil, which has previously targeted everything from Brazilian meat company GBS to Lady Gaga. Okay, okay. The pattern matches the behavior in part, so that is why there is a serious indication it could be them selling the data. Jar said. A defunct Rival website has been redirecting traffic to the dark web forum where the Medibank data was leaked. Okay. Rival, an amalgam of ransomware and Evil, was the subject of a US $10 million reward from the US authority before being reportedly dismantled by Russian this year. GBS Foods, one of the largest beef producers in the world, paid Revel an ransom of US 11 million in 2021. Ja said the hackers could now look to sell the sensitive data to blackmailers and other scammers, scumbags and crooks. Okay, the hacker also uploaded what they said were a series of messages sent to Medibank in the days before the leak. We will do everything in our power to inflict as much damage as possible for you, both financial and reputationally. One message from the hacker read: hundreds of millions of US dollars have been wiped off Medibank market value, with the company's share price down more than 20% since October, when news of the leak first emerged. Troy Hunt, a cybersecurity expert working for Microsoft, wrote on Twitter that the breach was about as bad as we feared it would get. The Medibank had followed an attack on telecom company Optus in September that exposed the personal information of some 9 million Australians. Ja said the enormous Medibank and Optus data breaches could make it easier to carry out cyber attacks on different systems in the future. A lot of credentials have been stolen in recent months, he said. That makes the job of the attacker easier. They can go and try other systems with millions of credentials. Australian Assistant Treasurer Stephen Jones said the perpetrators were scumbags and the crooks. We shouldn't be giving in into these fraudsters, he told local media. As Medibank tried to contain the leak, it was also staring down the barrel of a potentially costly class action lawsuit. So, I mean, it's a great thing, of course. Not a great thing. I mean, okay. At last, I just want to say, you guys, Keep researching, stay curious, stay healthy.